Now we have Carlo Falciola, who can join us on the stage, that will talk about security in a container environment.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Carlo Falciola. I'm about 20 years old experience on cyber security, especially on logical security. That means a long way back, and it's about 40 years that I actually pushing computer keys here and there with more or less effectiveness and success. Anyway, today I would like to have a very, very brief conversation about the microservices architectures and containers architecture, how impact and need to force security approach to change and to merge in something that is makes sense. Because there are tools, there are strategies, and those stuff needs to be taken in account from the very beginning of any project by anyone. Security is quite a complex stuff now, because there are a lot of steps in which security is relevant. Let's say that security is relevant starting from from when you design the architecture of your solution, when you deploy, when you manage, when you use it. You basically cannot forget. I don't want to be, to exaggerate this. I don't want to be paranoid on that things, but on the other side, I don't want to let's drive paranoid to on security to have a trick to basically say it's too complex, forget about that. No way at all. So, in particular, for the topics, there are some aspects that it's worth at least to cite and to start investigate for your need. As I say, cybersecurity is complex. It's a very, very high dynamic environment, basically because we always are in the game, because we are the defender and then there are the attackers, and both push to have a better result. That ends up to be a very, very fast targeting, moving to have a reasonable security. That means not the complete, because let's drive to the paranoid approach, but to something that is cost effective. A very, very important point is that from the organizational point of view, you have to understand how to use your resources to get the best result, and start to apply security concepts from the start, because this could make solution much more cheaper, or at least feasible. If you wait too late, you cannot throw security at the end of the game. That's not the way it goes. So it's a matter for everybody. Let's say, apart from toy project that you do in your room at night and start, leave, and that on your PC, everything else has to face with security. So, what are microservices? You probably know very well what is microservices. I'm not going to introduce them at all. Simply, I'd like you to note that microservices is something that has components that talks together. Many components with a high level of volatility, ephemeral, or let's say dynamic, and a lot of connection. That means that you have to face from the very beginning the topic of managing the identity of this component, because a solution based on microservices could be attacked by substituting one component with something else and do nasty thing, or just doing things that are not good for security, in the sense that maybe if you just leave a component that locks too much stuff, it's a problem from data protection point of view, etc. Then you have to think about how the communication are applied. You cannot forget, because basically, what we, in the past, when I was a little bit younger, was the perimeter of an infrastructure is not anymore. Infrastructure, whatever they are part in mobility, part in house, part in cloud, part whatever else. No, there is no more perimeter. So you have to talk any communication to like something that could be attacked, could be used for some kind of misuse. And of course, in this communication, data are exchanged, so you have to understand who is changing the data, who, etc., etc. That's basically the first consideration that I take on this tape. Then, going in the container, in that sense, basically security changes and needs to change because the entity, a container, is something slightly different from what was the natural concept of perimeter of an host, a machine, or whatever. So you have to understand how to control, to manage, and to make safe all the communication that are also between components that are running in the same machine. So the concept of network security may take a different meanings in that context. And of course, container may have a very short life, and that means that some practice in security that are well used and accepted are maybe not anymore that much valid. So if you have a container that lasts few seconds, making a vulnerability assessment any amounts doesn't really make sense at all. Another point is that you probably have to put a lot of attention on configuration, etc. So basically, the container security tools that pop up and are already available in the commercial, but mainly in the in the open source world, are tools that help you to understand if your image is configured well, because the configuration could lead to very, very large vulnerability. And this could be completely, not obvious from a developer point of view or for a deployer point of view. You have to do some runtime security. That also means that your usual kind of tool that you use for monitoring your traffic or whatever are still valid, but not enough anymore. You have to understand the configuration and compliance topics, because you can have the same container that if you deploy with a different configuration is safe, and with another configuration is not safe anymore. So it's part of the game. Then there is the topic of the policy management, in which you can push out of your infrastructure some of the logic of your application, but you also have to understand how secure is to this kind of communication, how secure the policy are itself, because if you change a policy, you can have your system that behave completely different. And of course, network security that, as I told, is a completely different increased span, not only machine to machine, cables, IP address, etc., but much more finer grain. So tools are there. Many of them are available for open source. So I don't absolutely want to go in depth, because it would take days, maybe. It's important to understand and to balance what to use, what not to use, in order to have a reasonable level of control and implementation security. One say many times the areas of what the tool does have different and strange intersections. So you have to find out what is your best, I can say, best combination of tool to have the maximum coverage and with the most reasonable effort. going back to microservices, there is also a topic that is the logical security. We were talking about this communication between, so communication means identification, means also that any message carry a kind of identity. Who is performing this request, who is performing this action, and may someone do something else, something or whatever. There is a very, very nice document, sorry, in the OWASP site that is talk about microservices security cheat sheet that is totally focused on logical security, on the concept of authorization and identification. That is very, very useful to understand what to do. There are different techniques. The concept that I think is very important for everybody to know is that you need to think your defense in depth. There is no anymore in and out. And that is probably the biggest message that I want to carry to you now, today. Not anymore. So think about something that any single components need to be able to operate knowing what is correct and what is not. So that's it. Very, very short summary. Cybersecurity for microservices and container architecture has different needs than what we are used to do. Containers needs continuous monitoring because they pop up here and there, and so you need to understand what is your actual infrastructure at that specific instant, not in general. Network is different, and identity management assume a key role for security and for data exfiltration and abuse control. That's all. If anybody has any question, I will be happy to try to answer. And
we'll see if anyone has questions.
Yep.
You say that the cybersecurity change in microservice architecture.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody here grown with the perimeter outside the company and inside.
Not anymore.
Yeah. But do you think this difference is more related to the dynamic way of using microservice, or more related to that the attacker are much better now than in the past?
No, I think it's in the nature of the solution. Because microservices is communication between objects that might pop up here and there on the needs of the platform itself. So could be static, but could also be extremely dynamic. Anytime you have to understand if you are talking to the right guy.
Yeah.
So it's definitely in the environment. Then, of course, the global environment of IT systems is changed. We have mobility, we rely on services that are performed by someone else because we buy services on the cloud or whatever for doing whatever, from card payments to asking for services, whatever. But that means that there is no more in and out. And it's not going to change anyway.